That of cybersecurity. This was made known during a recent cabinet reshuffle. The reshuffle has deep political implications.
The president shall appoint ministers.
Zimbabwe has a brand new ministry. It is that of cybersecurity. Cybercrime is evolving at all levels and threatens any nation's security. Countries such as the US and France were hit by cybercrime during elections. Some say they were aimed at influencing the outcome of the elections.
The president was very clear in his mind that he is dealing with an emerging threat to the state of Zimbabwe, a threat that is founded on abuse and unlawful conduct in cyberspace, and a threat which is, I was going to use a very complex Latin word, a threat sui generis, which is unusual and quite new, and therefore which needs a development of a new body of law, right? Two, which requires that the incumbent minister must collect from world experience, right? Those elements that can be integrated within our own system to ensure that we are able to deal with the threat and deal with it competently. The president made specific reference to countries like Russia, like China, the Koreas, who have been facing similar challenges. He also adverted to the discussions that he had with his counterpart in South Africa in the context of the Binational Commission last week, where again that subject loomed large.
Zimbabwe will go to the polls next year, and the appointment of the new minister in the Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Ministry is an indication that the stakes are high.
I will go to justice and do my best in moving my country forward.
The Vice President, Emmerson Mnangagwa, has seen his powers reduced. He has lost the Justice Ministry. Sophie Mokoena, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Joining me now is our foreign editor, Sophie Mokoena, to talk about the latest developments both in Kenya and Zimbabwe. Ma'am Sophie, very good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us. Let's start talking about, of course, the latest developments in Kenya, in that Raila Odinga has announced that he's pulling out of the election. What does this mean for the country?
Well, it's not clear what's likely to happen, but as our correspondent who's based in Nairobi, Kenya, Sarah Kimani, who's quite conversant with the politics of Kenya, has indicated that tomorrow Parliament will resume, and the ruling party, the Jubilee, is going to propose a legislation that says should anyone pull out of the race between the two, whoever is available then takes over. And it means that they will definitely push for that legislation tomorrow. And because they have numbers in Parliament, Jubilee, this might go through. And it looks like very soon we'll see the inauguration of Uhuru Kenyatta. But the problem is on the ground. How is this message or this announcement going to be received?
Instability again,
well, I don't know. It's up to Raila Odinga to realize that whatever he does, whatever he says, has got serious implications in terms of the future of that country. And not only the future of that country, but the entire region, the EAC, because Kenya plays a very important role in ensuring stability in that region. You have Burundi, which is not so stable. You have DRC, which is currently experiencing challenges. You have Somalia, we have South Sudan. And if you can have Kenya being in that situation of instability, the whole region will have serious problems. Collapse. And that will be bad for not only the region, but the entire continent. It is for that reason, Raila Odinga, whatever he does, moving forward, it will be very important. And in other words, he must contribute towards ensuring that there's peace and stability in Kenya. And I think from my analysis, I was there, I monitored the elections. I think when the Supreme Court made that announcement, they were taken aback. They were not expecting that announcement. And I suspect they are not ready. It is for that reason they had made certain demands which are a bit problematic or difficult to implement. And now this is the situation. And it's sad because Kenya was a shining light in terms of stability, economic growth, and being a leader in that region, but also on the continent, because Kenyatta was a very, very young leader.
All right. Now, Sophie, let's talk about those 11 demands. I mean, as you've just said, I mean, a lot of people were saying that some of them are just completely outrageous. I spoke to the U.S. Observer Mission, and she said some of these demands are not even doable in due time for the proposed date, the new proposed election date. So what do you think about that? Was this a delaying tactic or just a way for Raila Odinga to destabilize the country?
Politicians are politicians. They will do anything to ensure that their voice are heard, or his or her particular. In this instance, Raila Odinga, his voice is heard. And I think it was that kind of politicians always gambling, you know, in terms of...
but his voice was heard. The court made a ruling. He's just supposed to go to the next elections and contest.
I don't think he's ready. I don't think it's ready. I don't think for him in particular the environment is conducive, because you have to do a lot of work. You must have money, you must have volunteers, you must have party agents at the polling station. It's a lot of work to organize for elections, particularly when you move from a premise of being in opposition. You need all the support systems. I think he didn't have that support system.
Sophie, let's leave it there for now. I have a feeling I'm going to see you on Sunday to talk further about this story. But for now, let's move on to other interesting developments from our neighbors, Zimbabwe. Here there's, of course, a cyber ministry that has been created in Zimbabwe amid the reshuffle that has been very much on everyone's lips. Talk to us about that.
You know, during the Binational Commission last week, we had a discussion with Aldrin Simpier, and what we picked up during that Binational Commission, it was the announcement by President Mugabe kind of sending a warning to South Africa that something must be done to deal with issues of cybercrime. Yeah. And we immediately understood what was the message. And I'm not surprised now that you have this new minister of cybersecurity.
Do we know their name?
Yes, it's Minister Patrick Chinamasa, who was the finance minister.
Yeah.
And because when we were talking to people who from part of the delegation from Zimbabwe, they told us that President Mugabe was talking about this cyber crime based on the fact that they had problems with their currency in Zimbabwe, and there was a suspicion that there was some interference in terms of their system, and that affected the currency performance. And it is for that reason then he was saying to President Zuma, we have to be vigilant. Cyber crime, it's not just only during elections or people just making fake news, but also it can affect the economy, and particularly the currency. And when this announcement was made yesterday, I called Aldrin immediately. I said, Aldrin, we were spot on.
So, of course, everybody was waiting for him to announce the next successor to him, but of course that never happened.
No, he's made it clear. I don't think he will do that. He's made it clear that he's not going to do that. He's going to follow the policies of the party, where membership or the members of the party will decide who is going to be his successor. But the reality is there's a serious battle, you know, between the current vice president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, and the second vice president, Mr. Mpoko. And it's not clear yet who is going to make it finally. But there are also, this is perhaps from my side, my analysis, I might be wrong, that don't underestimate the current Minister of Defense, Minister Sekere Mai. He might be a dark horse.
Look, while we're still there, no Ronwin and my floor manager Zinhle are both going to kill me because we're out of time. But the elections in Liberia, of course, Ellen Sirleaf Johnson going out of power. What can we expect there?
Well, clearly, the only woman president on the continent, she is leaving. And clearly, we are not going to have a woman president, I think, in Liberia. The two front runners.
You said there is a contender who's female,
yes,
but she's not a front runner.
The front runner is the current vice president and the soccer star, George Weah.
All right, Sophie, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll deliberate on these matters further. I think by Sunday they would have developed two full-on stories. That is SABC foreign editor Sophie Mokoena talking to us about Kenya, Zimbabwe, and of course Liberia. Up next is, of course, Simpiwe Ngongwane, who's got your sports news.